Good morning, Rabotai. Welcome to Breakfast in the Class. Breakfast in the Class today is dedicated to loving memory of Gadi's parents, Aharon and Hannah ben Hamo. The Ilun Shpatim Aharon ben Farhia and Hannah bat Rivka, sponsored by the son Gadi ben Hamo. The year of Breakfast in the Class is dedicated to loving memory of Nishmat Ruth bat Adela or Fali, Leah Shalom, sponsored by her family. The learning for this week is dedicated by the Torah Center Gold donors, Francis and Marco Palacci, in honor of their beautiful daughters in memory of their grandparents, Mali and Marcus Minyan, Aleim Shalom, and Maya, Mike Mahana, Alav Shalom. For the Fuashema of Eliashua Mazal Fortuné, and the continued health of Chana Bat Simafega, in loving memory of Nishmat Rivka Bat Ruven and Esther Ambalu, Alea Shalom on her Askara, sponsored by her son, Ben Zion Elias. Hazaku Baruch. My friends, let us begin. I'll bet you are wondering why we are sitting at tables like this. So this is Baruch Hashem for this afternoon's Praying Alive class. So Baruch Hashem, we have a class on Tuesday afternoon on the deeper meanings of tefillah and mastering the art of prayer. And we've started a series on the Amidah, and we are, I think, one shiur in. We did the intro and one shiur. This is going to be the second shiur. And there was this many people in the room last time, but many of them didn't have a table to write, and many people are writing during notes on the class. So that's why we're sitting in a room like this, and everyone is very, very far from each other for breakfast. So Mechila, on behalf of the women of that class, and of course the class Be'ezat Hashem will be recorded and will be on YouTube. I think you might need to sign up for it. I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen. But let's begin. The Pasuk says as follows. Vayomer Esav el Aviv. And Esav said to his father, Haberacha achat hi lecha avi. Do you only have one blessing, my father? Barecheni gamani. Bless me too. What are we talking about? We know that at the end of his life, Yitzhak Avinu said to Esav, he said, prepare for me my the meat, the shawarma we talked about yesterday, the way I love it. Okay? Prepare it for me. And I will bless you with my soul. I'll give you beracha. Turns out Yaakov Avinu gets the berachot, takes the berachot, and Esav comes in and he can't believe he's been scooped. And he says, Ba'achi, my brother came b'mirma with trickery and he took my berachot. And Yitzhak Avinu says, in the end, he says something very interesting. He says, Gam baruch yiyeh. He took your berachot, I gave him your berachot, and he will be blessed. And Esav says, but come on, what about me? You only have one beracha, you can't bless me too. Yitzhak Avinu says, but I gave him, give you samtiv lach. I made him as your master. What should I do? Until eventually, after the insistence of Esav, Yitzchak blesses him as well. My friends, I want to take a little bit of a deeper look at what's going on here. He says to his father, do you only have one beracha? Bless me too. Vayisa Esav kolo, and Esav lifts up his voice, vayevk, and he starts to cry. I want to read you the words of the I believe it's the hold on, here we go, wrong page. Yalkut Shimoni. This Yalkut Shimoni is unbelievable. Amar Rabbi Hanin. Rabbi Hanin taught, Kol mi she'omer HaKadosh Baruch Hu vatran. Anyone that says that God, he's a vatran, he just lets everything slide. He doesn't care, he's chill. Yivatru ma'oi. Not such a wonderful thing should happen to him. Illa, rather, God doesn't, look the other way, turn the other cheek, ignore what you did. Rather, ma'arich ruche. He has unbelievable patience. But at the end, if a person doesn't change, ve'gavi dileh, God then collects what is due to him, so to speak. He makes sure to re-navigate the person by nudging him in the right direction. Ze'aka achat, one scream. His ik Yaakov Avinu. Did Yaakov cause Esav to cry? Ematai nifralo. So when was that paid back? We just said that God doesn't let things slide. When was it paid back? B'Shushan Abira, in the city of Shushan. Vayizak ze'aka gedola umara. That Mordechai called a great and bitter cry. Gimel dimaot horid Esav. 3 tears did Esav shed. Echad mimino, echad mismolo. 1 from his right eye, 1 from his left eye. Ve'echad nistaleka betoch eno. And 1 of his tears stayed in his eye. You know when your eye wells up, but the tear doesn't come out. Vehi he'echilatam lechem dim'ah v'teshakemo b'dima'ot shalish. Because of those tears, Esav has had the power over thousands of years throughout the history of the Jewish people. We've paid very dearly for those tears. Amiru Yisrael. Yisrael then said, the Jewish people said, Esav Arasha, Esav the wicked, Al Shorid Gimel Dimaot, because 3 tears that he cried, Nitmaleh Rachamim Alav, you filled with mercy on him, and therefore you gave him this power throughout history. Anu, we, Shedimaotenu Tidirim Bayom Belayla. We cry in the morning, we cry at night. Kalechem, it's like a staple of our diet, like bread. Alachat kama v'kama, how much more so should you listen to our cries and our tears and our prayers? Shne'emar, like the pasuk says, Hayita li dimati lechem yomam v'alayla. My tears were for me like bread in the day and in the night. Amar David al dimati. So David HaMelech said, so for my tears, al techerash. Do not make your ears deaf. Don't not listen to my tears. My friends, this Yalkut Shimoni is sharing with us something unbelievable, something very powerful. And what is it? Esav's tears, they had a price that had to be collected. But what do we know about Esav's tears? What do we know about them? We know that Esav did not deserve the blessings. Why not? 2 reasons. Number 1, on the day that Esav sold the Bechorah to Yaakov, okay, he committed 5 sins that not according to Jewish law, but according to the law of Bnei Noach. Esav should have been killed. He should have had a death penalty. He never would have made it to the Berachot, number 1. Number 2, we know that he sold the Bechorah, which then resulted, he sold the firstborn right to Yaakov Avinu on that day, which meant that he was precluded from getting the Berachot of the Bechorah. In fact, when Yitzchak Avinu says, Gam Baruch Yeh, what is Yitzchak Avinu saying? Oh, that's how it went down? So he should get the Berachot. Gam Baruch Yeh, he's right. That is how it should be. My friends, the Osrot Peninei Torah points out that if it turns out that Yitzchak Avinu, that Esav did not deserve the Berachot, he had no claim to the Berachot, that means that his cries and his prayers in this moment were unjustified. He didn't deserve them. He wasn't supposed to get them. And still his prayer was answered. Why? Why was his prayer answered if it was not justified? So they tell over a story, just so gorgeous. Rav Shmelka from Nicholsburg, he asked a beautiful question. He said, how is it that Esav's cries have given him power over the Jewish people throughout the millennia for the 3 tears that he cried, but we know that we've outweighed those 3 tears with billions of tears. So in Judaism we know there's a law of Batel Barov. Something is, nullified by a majority. The tears of the Jewish people have far outweighed the tears of Esav. So he answered the most fascinating answer. He said he was one time in an inn, a Jewish inn. And in the middle of the night, midnight, he starts hearing cries from the room next door. Oy, crying. Oy, 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 oy. He thinks to himself, wow, I must be next door to a big tzaddik. At midnight, the guy's crying, he's moaning, he's groaning about the Beit HaMikdash. He's doing Tikkun Chatzot. Anyway, he's so excited, he's going to be able to meet such a holy Jew. He goes maybe to knock on the door to see if he could join him, to see if he could learn from him. As he's about to knock on the door, he hears the guy, oy vey. Guy says to his wife, he says, why did you cook me that egg that way? I have such terrible heartburn. Oy, oy vey, oy vey. Anyway, you could imagine that he's sitting there with the, he decides not to knock. But my friends, said the rabbi, that's one of the reasons why Am Yisrael's tears and our cries have not been able to overwhelm the tears of Yitzhak, of Esav to Yitzhak. Why? Because our tears are for heartburn. Our tears are because we're in pain. But what was Esav's tears? At least these. He was crying over a beracha. The toughest, strongest, most evil person was crying for a davar shebekdusha. Now one could say that Esav was crying about the blessings because the blessings were about physical things. And you'd probably be right. But in that second, Esav's cries were for a beracha, for a davar shebekdusha. And his desire and his prayers for something holy, for something good, for something special, was so powerful that they lasted thousands of years. My friends, this idea has to knock your socks off. That a person's tefillot are answered even if they're not justified. So long as they're real, so long as they're emet, so long as they're for the right thing. And why do I find this so powerful? Because not only can unjustified tears change something, the power that they have to change is also not just a small thing, because they don't deserve to change anything big. They're not justified. They're even more powerful than that. He brings the Zohar. The Zohar says, the son of Rabbi Yossi, the Tana, he was 12 years old when Rabbi Yossi passed away. Anyway, they declare him DOA, right? Time of death, whatever. The boy is sitting there by his father, and he starts crying. And he says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he prays, and this is this 12-year-old boy's tefillah. He says, in your Torah, God, it says, Ki yikareh kan tzipor lefanecha. If you're walking on the road and you see a nest with eggs in it, or chicks, shalech teshalach et haem, send away the parent, ve'et habanim tikach lach. Take the children for yourself. Take the eggs, the chicks for yourself. But you, God, lakachtet ha'av et haem. My mother already passed away. Now you took my father too, right? Ve'et habanim, and the children, hisharta, you left. Haya lecha lasot lehefech. You should have done the opposite. Instead of taking my father and my mother and leaving us here to fend for ourselves, you should have taken the children for yourself and chased away the father and the mother. In that moment, says the Zohar, Ubashamayim hayu. In heaven there were gimel meot elef malachim, 300,000 angels. Bebet din shel mala, in the heavenly court. Ve'oridu kulam demaot, and the 300,000 angels began to cry. Ve'akadosh baruch hu omer, and God himself says, Eni yachol ledemaotav shel gedi zeh. I can't handle the tears of this young of this young calf, this young child. Ve'hechiya et aviv, Rabbi Yossi. And he brought his father, Rabbi Yossi, back to life. Ve'hosifu lo chafav shana. And they added 26 more years to the father's life. Ad asher gadal hanar, until the child grew up and already was, by that time, you could do the math, 26 and 12, 38 years old. Uchidei lefayes et malach hamavet, but now the malach hamavet's balance sheet is off. Nitenu yud gimel anashim bimkom Rabbi Yossi. 13 people passed away. Bimkom Rabbi Yossi. Yud gimel anashim. Wild. We learn from the Zohar a couple things. First of all, if the malach hamavet had to be, so to speak, compensated, then it's clear that Rabbi Yossi was not supposed to be brought back to life. Number two, why does he give him 26 years? Shem's name. Which name of God? Yud Ke Vav Ke, which represents God in Rahamim. This is not deen here. This is not justified. He's not supposed to be brought back. But let's make it even more clear. Let's look at the argument of this child. The child is arguing against everything that is natural and logical. What does he ask? In the Torah it says, send away the mother and the father and take the child. That's what you should take for yourself. That's what it says, correct? Hashem, you know what you should have done? You should have taken the children and chased away the mother and the father. That's not the way of the world. That's not how it works. The older ones go first. The younger ones, it's a kilala if the children are taken before. We're living through a time of kilala right now, where fathers and mothers are burying their children in Israel. What's the kid asking? What else, my friends? Where is this complaint brought? It doesn't say, if you listen to the Zohar carefully, that it was brought to the Shamayim. Where are the angels crying? Where is God making this statement? Ubishamayim ayu gimel meot elef. In the heavens there was 300,000 malachim, angels. Bebedin shel ma'ala. My friends, they were in a courtroom in the heavens. The angels were crying in court. It's not that there was a sanegor, that there was a prosecutor and a defense attorney, and the defense attorney said, Isma, Sadak, the guy's right. Hashofet kol haaretz lo ya'aseh mishpat. Is the judge of all the earth, is he not going to do that which is correct? That's not what's going on over here. What's going on over here is a little boy made the angels cry, made God himself say, I can't bear to see this. So God undoes something which he's not supposed to undo. The thing is not logical. The thing doesn't make sense, but doesn't matter. Because what's he crying for? He's crying for his father. And what happens? Tahiyat metim. On Shabbat, we had a class all about anxiety. Ya'eni. It's a big one, that one. And I'll tell you something I did not get the chance to talk about. Fascinating teshuvah. It was a question that was brought to the Ikareh Hadat. Dat not spelt Dalid Taf, but Hey Dalid Tet. Ikareh Hadat. Now, if you're thinking that Rabbi Farhi doesn't know how to spell, those are the initials of his name. He was a great posek. His name was Rav Daniel from Tirani. Okay? So, Ikareh Hadat. Harav Daniel Tirani. What was the question? They sent him a she'elah. There was a rabbi who on his deathbed made a request from his children. What did he tell his kids? When I die, don't bury me that day. Wait a day or two to bury me. That's what he asked. The kids, why? He says, because in our place, they used to bury, he said, in catacombs. They would put a person in a box and stick him into a wall, And that's how they would bury them. But now he said they started burying in the earth, which is really the ideal way in halakha, although you're allowed to bury, by the way, in these catacombs. In fact, in Israel today, little known fact, because people don't like to look into these things before their time, as well they shouldn't. In Israel today, they've run out of burial place. I don't know if you know this. They are now burying people, one on top of the other in the earth. They're now burying people in the wall, like they used to, in certain places, like the royals used to be buried. They don't have a space. My grandmother was buried in a dual plot, buried at the bottom. You just have to make sure that when you buy a spot, you're not the top spot, yani, and then they got to take you out when they put another guy. You know, you don't want to. You don't want to be in that situation. It's wild. My friends, the guy says, back in the old days they buried you like that. What if you were not really dead? You could bang on the box. Hey, we're still in here. They bury you in the ground. If you were alive, now you're dead. Cause of death, burial. My friends, the guy asked his kids, don't bury me. Could you believe this? Now they come to the rabbi and they say, Rabbi, what should we do? We have a Gemara that says, Misvah lekayem dibrei hamet. If someone on their deathbed asks his descendants to do something, there's a mitzvah to listen to him. Did you know that? Mitzvah to listen. On the other hand, the halacha is lo talin nivlato. You're not supposed to wait. You're supposed to, if someone passes away, you're supposed to bury them right away. In fact, in Israel, especially in Jerusalem, they're the most strict on this. They won't let the body wait till tomorrow. So if a guy passes away, they'll bury the guy in minutes. Never mind people arriving from Chutz La'aretz. There's times when in Israel, they're burying him in Jerusalem, the guy can't get there from Bnei Brak. He can't get there from Rishon LeZion. If there's traffic on the highway, they ain't waiting for nobody. That's why you see people being buried at night. It's wild. Lo talini blato. My friends, so they go to the rabbi and they ask this rabbi, what should we do? On the one hand, our father asked us, he's a rabbi, not to bury him, wait 2-3 days, to make sure he's dead. On the other hand, the halakha is supposed to bury someone right away. Interestingly enough, why was I going to talk about that on Shabbat? I was going to talk about, look at how the type of things people could be anxious about. Hadad's alive. He's worried that after he's dead, he's going to still be alive, and then they're going to bury him, and then he's going to die in his grave. People are anxious about all sorts of things in their life. I read the Zohar, and all of a sudden I understood. Because in the Ikareh Hadat, you know what he says? The Ikareh Hadat writes that if the father would know how damaging it is, how bad it is for someone who's passed away not to be buried right away, he would never have asked that. So he said to the children, when he realized he was wrong? 1 second after he passed away. And now in Shamayim his soul is screaming, don't listen to me, don't listen to me. You can't hear him. So all you have is this piece of paper, all you have is his request from before. He says, therefore you should override the request. I read the Zohar, I understood. There's people, you're rushing to bury them. There's times they think a person is, by the way, I looked at this, forget Judaism, forget the Zohar, there are documented cases of people declared dead in the hospital, brought to the funeral home, and the funeral home, they didn't realize the heart went into a deep state. Psycho stories. Excellent. Maybe now you understand why the guy said, don't bury me. He was hoping that he had a son like Rabbi Yossi that would be able to arouse Rahameh Shamayim. Why am I sharing this?
In Persia, and it's the same empire, with the dualism, they absolutely thought it a curse to bury anybody in the ground. They would put them on a stand and wait for the birds to eat them and so on. Completely against us. And this...
It's funny you should mention this, because the philosopher Diogenes, I think I'm pronouncing his name right. Diogenes or Diogenes? Diogenes. D-I-O. I don't know how to pronounce it. We didn't learn about it in yeshiva, okay? So my rabbi didn't give shiur on him. He said that when I die, put my body in the middle of the field, an open field. They said, but then the animals will come eat you. He says, you're totally right. He says, put a stick next to my body. That way, if the animals come, I'll beat them off. They said, but you'd be dead. You're not be able to bet. He goes, if I'm dead, what do I care if the animals eat me? That's he said. Okay, that's their philosophy, not ours. We, in Judaism, the utmost respect. The utmost respect. If you ever see the holy work of Zakah, Shema Yisrael, in the most difficult of scenarios, they're coming not only to show respect, they're doing this sometimes wearing helmets and bulletproof vests, even under fire to go retrieve the body. Crazy stuff that they do. Mopping up the area to take every ounce that they can of Jewish blood to bring it, and they bury the sheets filled with blood in the ground. Just unbelievable kavod for the person that passes away, to try and give them the proper respect for their burial. Just what they do is unbelievable. I do not know how anyone from Zakah ever sleeps at night, ever. I would never be able to sleep one wink at night. But my friends, what you're seeing over here is that the prayers of Esav, from the bottom of his heart, the guy's a Rasha. And he's not a Rasha praying for something that he deserves. He's not even praying for something that's his. But because it was for a good cause, because those tears are real, my friends, any. Well, we've had to combat them for so long. And you know what? Our tears are for pain, not for the thing, not for the holiness. Listen to this. What that means is, the Gemara tells us, the Pasuk, tells us, that if you lend money to a poor man, and you come to the poor man and you tell him, listen, remember, what's it called? Remember, I lent you money? Yeah. He goes, and remember, you gave me as collateral these pillows and blankets, the only thing you had in your house? He said, yeah. He says, well, I read in the Torah, it's night, the sun is setting, here, I have to give it back to you. I have to give you your pillows and blankets back at night. If I take your pajamas, I have to give you your pajamas back. Guy says, okay. You know what else the Torah says? The Torah says, when you go to the house in the morning to go get his pajamas back as your collateral, don't go in the house, stand outside. Now, I want to just point this out. This is so powerful to me. You lent him money. A collateral, what's the purpose of collateral, guys? Guarantee you get paid. What's the guarantee? That if you take the guy's car, and now he needs to go to work, right? So he's going to be like, I better pay the loan back and need my car. Imagine if every time the guy needed his car, he was able to use his car. What would the collateral be? It means nothing. Rolls Royce. It means nothing. You guys with me? The whole point of collateral is that if I don't give you your money back, then I have the inconvenience of not having the object I gave you as collateral for the loan. But if every night I have to bring you your pillow back, because that's what you used to sleep, I have to give you your pajamas back, then you don't ever miss it. And then in the morning I have to come get it from you, and you know what, I don't even walk in your house, I have to stand outside. It's pointless. The collateral is pointless. Says the Pasuk, you know why you better wait outside? You know why you can't withhold his pillow and his blanket? Because the poor guy in that moment, he's going to turn to me and he's going to pray to me. Vishamati. And I will listen to his prayers. Ki chanun ani. Because I am compassionate. Hold up. I lent him the money. He gave me the collateral. I just want my money back. You're going to listen to his prayers? Those are justified? What did I do wrong? The answer is, when tefillot are really heartfelt, then my friends, it doesn't make a difference if they're justified. It doesn't make a difference if they're correct. So you best watch out from the tears of a poor person. My friends, a little while ago, I had a conversation with a fella. He did something, it wasn't wrong. But he embarrassed a man that had nothing. And I went up to him and I said, listen, what you did was correct. You don't have to apologize in the heavenly court for correcting the person on what they've done wrong. I said, but I want you to understand, This is a person who has nothing. If he was insulted, it doesn't matter if he's right or if he's wrong. If he's praying from his heart, God's going to answer his prayers. You want someone out there who's got complaints against you, who has nothing and nobody, so the only one he could turn to with his problems is Borei Olam. Vishamati ki chanun ani. I said, go make it right. You don't need that hanging over you. He said, what do you mean? I did nothing wrong. I said, look, he also did nothing wrong. Yaakov also did nothing wrong. My friends, we learn from this a beautiful thing. Not only about poor people, not only about Ishaim, but we learn that Esav got something that he did not deserve. And my friends, while I hope most of us are not Esav, I think every one of us eats breakfast, lunch, and dinner on the heshbon of this idea. Because you know something? We don't deserve what we're asking from God either. And our prayers are also not justified. Because you know what? I don't do Shabbat the way I'm supposed to on my level. I don't pray the way I'm supposed to pray on my level. I don't keep kosher the way I'm supposed to on my level. Yeah, you know what? I'm growing, but I kind of take it easy on myself. I could go harder than this. Guy tells me sometimes, guy says, listen, Rabbi, look, I'm trying, but I'm slow. Gotta take things slow. I said, you're 100% right. I said, but tell me. He said, yeah. I said, you always tell me about how you go work out in one of these, I don't know which one it was, one of these Barry's boot camp or whatever, Soul Cycle or Peloton, Army, I don't know what he does. I said, you're sitting there on the bike, riding like a maniac, sweating bullets like this, coming off, every one of your muscles is sore. If yesterday you did 45 minutes, today you did an hour, the next day you did 2 hours. I said, tell me, you go to shul, you're sweating like that? Are your muscles hurting when you're shaking lulav, like that? Do you get the same workout? Not physically, spiritually. You know that for your body to grow, it needs to kind of be punished. It needs to be pushed to the limits, to the max. You know how muscle grows? What you're doing when you're lifting weights above and beyond and you're stretching is you're literally creating micro tears in the muscle. That's what's happening. And then when your muscle is growing, you know what that actually is? That's like scar tissue. That is how you develop bulk in muscle, by creating micro tears in your muscle. That's what's happening. Are you doing that for your soul? I don't know what soul there is in Soul Cycle, but maybe the reason why the guy named it that was so that we could bring it into this class. How are you in your Soul Cycle class? How much schwitz is coming off of your face? So if I'm not there, do I have a right to come to God and say, listen, hook me up? I'm asking him for all this beracha, but I don't listen to everything he says. I'm not much better than I was yesterday. So we also are undeserving, but it doesn't matter. Because when we pray like that, from the depths of our heart, then God listens to our prayers too. But there was one condition. And the one condition is, it's not for heartburn. And it's not for pain. And my friends, I'm going to end with something so controversial. Please forgive me. The Sepharim tell us that you know why Yishmael is such a difficult adversary, the Arabs? Because they're praying harder than we are. 5 times a day. And what are they praying for? They're praying for Har HaBayit. They're praying for Al-Aqsa. Now, the killing, all the things that they're doing are terrible. The worst the things that they could do, no question on those actions. But they're praying for something that is holy. On the way to that holiness, they're committing the worst crimes against humanity. But my friends, that's a part of what we're fighting against. And that's what's made them such a difficult adversary throughout the years. My friends, Hashem should bless us that our prayers should come from a deeper place. And that when we're praying for Parnassah, we're not praying for the brand new Mercedes. Or we're not praying for the house. But if we're praying for the house, We should pray that the house should be big enough to have many guests and tzedakah functions. And we're praying for the car. We should pray that our car should be available, so we should be able to give a guy a ride to the hospital, or that we should make many trips back and forth to the Nova Festival and save more lives. That's what we should pray for. If we find the beauty, the spirituality, the holiness in our requests, then our requests will be answered, even if they're not justified, so long as they come from the depths of our hearts. Hashem should bless us that all our prayers should be answered. L'tovah. Baruch